There is an invisible samurai inside you. He wakes at 5 a.m. without an alarm. He trains while the city sleeps. He eats the same rice without questioning. And he never complains. Have you tried building a perfect routine? You downloaded that app. You bought that beautiful journal. You promised yourself that this time it would work. And by Tuesday, everything collapsed again. The problem is not you. Nobody told you the secret that Bushidō warriors knew 800 years ago. Silent routines are stronger than loud promises. Samurai did not make motivational lists. They had no coaches. They did not post their achievements. They simply did. And they did it every day, until the routine became indistinguishable from breathing. Today, I will show you how to build this type of routine. The one that works in the dark, that needs no audience. That transforms you while nobody is watching. Get ready, because after this video, you will no longer be able to pretend you do not know the way. First, we need to understand what this Bushidō thing actually is. Sounds like some mystical term from an anime, right? But stay with me, because this matters for your morning routine in ways you probably did not expect. Bushidō means the way of the warrior. Except, it was not really about warriors in the way you might think. Sure, samurai carried swords and trained for combat, but the code itself was about something way more practical. It was about not losing your mind when everything got hard, about functioning when other people froze. The whole system ran on 8 principles: integrity, respect, courage, honor, compassion, honesty, duty, and self-control. I know that sounds like a lot of heavy concepts, but here is what they actually meant in daily life. These principles were decision filters. Imagine you wake up and you have to decide whether to train or stay in bed, whether to eat properly or grab whatever is quick, whether to face that difficult conversation or avoid it. Most people burn their entire day making these small choices over and over. And by evening, they are exhausted, scrolling through their phone, wondering why they feel so drained when they barely did anything important. The samurai figured out that all these little decisions were killing them. Not literally, but mentally. So they stopped making them. They built routines so solid that choice never entered the equation. Same wake time every day, same food, same training sequence. This was not about being boring or rigid. It was about saving their mental energy for stuff that actually needed thinking. When you are facing a real threat, a real problem, you cannot afford to be tired from deciding what to have for breakfast. You need your full capacity available. And that is exactly what their routines gave them. Now, here is where it connects to your life. You are not fighting battles with swords, obviously, but your morning is still a battlefield of sorts. The moment you open your eyes, you are already under attack. Notifications, responsibilities, that voice in your head listing everything you need to do today. And if your first response is to check your phone, to see what everyone else is doing, to let the outside world rush in before you even know what you want, you have already lost control. Not in a dramatic way, just in the sense that you are reacting now instead of directing. The samurai had this principle called ji. It means integrity or doing what is right. But not right in some abstract moral sense. Right as in aligned with what you said you would do. And the test of this happens when nobody is watching. When you are alone at 5 in the morning and you told yourself last night you would wake up early. No boss checking, no friends judging. Just you and that promise. Do you keep it or do you negotiate? Do you hit snooze and tell yourself it does not really matter because here is the thing. It does matter. Not because waking up early is some magical success habit, but because every time you break a promise to yourself, you learn that your word is cheap, even to you. And once you learn that lesson, it spreads everywhere. You said you would work on the hard thing first today. You said you would skip the junk food. You said you would finally start that project. But if the first promise of the day already crumbled, why would your brain believe any of the others? This is what the samurai understood. Their identity was built on this simple foundation. If they said it, it happened. Internal promise or external, alone or in public, always the same standard. You might be thinking this sounds exhausting, like you would be policing yourself constantly. But it is actually the opposite. Once you stop negotiating, once you just do the thing you said you would do, everything gets easier. You are not fighting yourself anymore. You are not having that internal argument every morning about whether today is the day you finally change. You already changed. You are just executing now. And that is what a silent routine actually is. Not motivation, not inspiration. Just a series of actions that happen because you decided they would. No drama, no audience, just you becoming someone who keeps their word. Starting tomorrow morning, before you touch anything else, before the world gets loud. That is where Bushidō begins. Alright, so you understand the philosophy now. But philosophy without action is just pretty words that make you feel good for 10 minutes. The samurai did not sit around discussing principles all day. They had systems. Practical, simple systems that worked even when they did not feel like it. And the most powerful one was something I call the rule of 3. Here is how it worked. Every samurai had 3 non-negotiable actions they performed each day, not 10. Not a list of 20 goals. 3. Why 3? Because your brain can handle 3 things without getting overwhelmed. You can remember 3 commitments when you are tired, stressed, or distracted. Try remembering 12 and see what happens. By noon, you forgot half of them, and by evening you are scrolling through your notes app, trying to figure out what you were supposed to do. 3 actions became sacred because they were the minimum viable version of who you wanted to be. If a samurai did nothing else that day, these 3 things proved he had not abandoned himself. Maybe it was weapon maintenance, physical training, and meditation, or maybe it was studying strategy, practicing calligraphy, and checking his equipment. The specifics did not matter as much as the structure. 3 things. Every single day, no exceptions. Not even when life exploded around him. Now, let me tell you why this works in your actual life. You probably have this giant list of things you think you should be doing. Exercise, eat healthy, read more, learn a new skill, meditate, journal, network, side hustle, be present with family. And just looking at that list makes you tired, right? So, what happens? You do none of it. Or you do one thing for 3 days, feel amazing about yourself, then burn out and quit everything. I have seen this pattern 1,000 times. Maybe you have lived it. The 3 sacred actions cut through all that noise. You pick 3 things that matter most to your identity. Not what sounds impressive. Not what you think you should care about. What actually matters to you. For some people, it might be move your body for 20 minutes, work on your main project for 1 hour, and connect with someone you love. For others, it could be completely different. The content is personal, but the structure is universal. 3 things you do before the day can claim you failed. And here is the part most people miss. These actions need to be ridiculously specific. Not exercise, but do 20 push-ups and walk for 15 minutes. Not work on project, but write 300 words of the report. Not be healthier, but drink 2 glasses of water before coffee. Vague intentions die the moment life gets complicated. Specific actions survive because you cannot negotiate with them. Either you did 20 push-ups or you did not. There is no gray area, no room for your brain to say, well, I kind of sort of did it. The other thing that made this system unbreakable for the samurai was timing, and they did not scatter these 3 actions randomly throughout the day hoping to find time. They did them first, before anything else could interfere. Before meetings, before problems, before other people needed things from them. This is critical. If you wait until you have free time to do what matters, you will never do it. Free time does not exist. There is only time you protect and time you give away. So your 3 sacred actions happen in the morning. Right after you wake up. Maybe it takes 30 minutes total, maybe an hour, but they are done before you check email, before you open social media, before the world knows you are awake. This creates a psychological fortress. No matter what disaster happens later, no matter if the entire day goes sideways, you already won. You already proved to yourself that you are the person you said you would be. Everything else is bonus. Now, I know what you are thinking. Only 3 things? That seems too simple. Surely successful people do way more than that, and yeah, they do. But here's what nobody tells you. Those 3 foundational actions create momentum. They build identity. And from that foundation, everything else becomes easier. When you start your day by keeping 3 promises to yourself, you carry that energy forward. You make better decisions about food because you already honored your body with movement. You focus better on work because you already trained your focus during your sacred actions. It compounds. The samurai knew this. They were not trying to do everything. They were trying to be someone who could do anything when it mattered. And that identity got built through repetition of what was essential. 3 actions. Every day. In silence. While everyone else was still deciding whether today was the day they would finally change their life. You know what nobody talks about? The gap between day 1 and day 90. Everyone wants to show you the transformation photo, the before and after. Here is me out of shape, here is me 6 months later with abs. But the middle part? The 70 days where nothing visible changed? That is where most people quit. Because they think if they cannot see progress, it is not happening. The samurai had a completely different understanding of growth. They called it keiko, repetitive training, but not repetition for the sake of building muscle or showing off new skills. Repetition to carve pathways into your nervous system, to make the action so automatic that your conscious mind could rest. And here is the wild part. Most of this training was invisible. You could watch a samurai practice the same sword draw 1,000 times and think nothing changed. But inside, everything was changing. This is what happens between day 1 and day 90 of your silent routine. You do your 3 sacred actions. You wake up, you execute, and at first, maybe you feel something. A little pride, a sense of accomplishment. But by day 20, day 40, that feeling is gone. You are just doing the thing. No fanfare, no dopamine hit, just you and the action again. And this is exactly where your brain tries to convince you it is not working. Because if it was working, you would feel different, right? Wrong. Growth does not announce itself. It accumulates in the dark. Think about your body right now. Your cells are replacing themselves. Your neurons are forming new connections. Your habits are literally rewiring your brain architecture. But you cannot feel any of it happening. You only notice months later when you reach for an old behavior and it is not there anymore. When you face a situation that used to break you and you handle it calmly. That is invisible training paying off. So what are you actually training during these invisible days? Not your muscles, not your productivity. You are training your capacity to show up when nothing exciting is happening. This might be the most underrated skill in existence. Anyone can start something when they are motivated. when the idea is fresh and you told all your friends and you bought new gear for it. But can you keep going on day 63 when nobody remembers you started? When you forgot why you even cared? When it is cold and dark and your bed is comfortable and there is no logical reason to get up except that you said you would? That capacity, that ability to move without emotional fuel, that is what separates people who actually change from people who just talk about changing. And you cannot build it in a week. You cannot buy it. You cannot hack it with some productivity app. It only comes from repetition in silence. From doing the thing over and over when nobody is watching and nothing is happening, and you kind of want to quit, but you do not. Here is what this looks like practically. Day 1, you do your 3 sacred actions and you feel great. You think this is it. I finally figured it out. Day 7. You still feel pretty good. You tell someone about your new routine. Day 15, you wake up, and for the first time you do not want to do it. But you do it anyway, because it has only been 2 weeks. Day 30, you are bored. The actions feel mechanical. You start wondering if this is even making a difference. Day 60, you almost quit. You sleep through your alarm once, you skip a day, then you come back. Day 90, you realize something weird. You do not think about it anymore. You just do it, like brushing your teeth. And somewhere in that journey, without you noticing exactly when, you became a different person. This is invisible training. The samurai spent years perfecting a single technique, not because the technique was complicated, because the repetition itself was the point. Each time they practiced, they were not trying to get better at the move. They were trying to make the move disappear into their body, so that in a real fight they did not have to think, they just acted. Your morning routine is the same. You are not trying to become more disciplined. You are trying to make discipline irrelevant. You are building automaticity. By day 365, you will not remember what it felt like to negotiate with yourself about waking up. You will not remember the person who needed motivation to do basic things. And that is the whole point. Transformation is not loud. It does not happen in a single moment of clarity. It happens in 1,000 invisible mornings where you kept your word to yourself, and nobody knew, and nothing felt special. That is the training. That is how you build a routine that actually lasts. Not through intensity, through invisibility, through showing up when it does not matter, so that you are ready when it does. So you made it past day 90. You built the routine. You showed up in the invisible days. And then life punches you in the face. Maybe you get sick. Maybe someone you love needs you. Maybe work explodes and suddenly you are traveling, handling emergencies, sleeping 3 hours a night. And your perfect routine? Gone. Completely shattered. This is where most people decide the whole thing was pointless. If it breaks this easily, was it even real? The samurai had an answer for this. They maintained their swords obsessively. Every single day, even when they were not fighting, they cleaned the blade, oiled it, checked for tiny spots of rust. Not because the sword would fall apart after one missed day, but because rust does not announce itself. It starts microscopically. You cannot see it. Then one day you need the blade, and it fails. And in their world, a failing blade meant death. So maintenance was not optional, it was survival. Your routine is the same. Except here's what people get wrong. They think maintenance means perfect execution every single day forever. That if you miss once, you failed. The samurai did not think this way. They knew that chaos was part of life. Battles happened. Injuries happened. Sometimes you could not do the full maintenance ritual, but you did something. Even if it was just wiping the blade down for 30 seconds. Even if it was not the complete process. You touched the sword. You remembered it existed. You kept the relationship alive. This is the difference between a routine that survives and one that dies the first time life gets hard. Flexibility within structure. Your 3 sacred actions are the structure. They do not change, but how you execute them can bend when it needs to. Maybe, on a normal day, you do 20 push-ups, write for an hour, and meditate for 15 minutes. But today, you are on a plane. You slept in an airport. You have meetings in 3 hours. What do? You find the bathroom, you do 10 push-ups, you write 3 sentences on your phone, you close your eyes for 2 minutes. Is it the same? No. Did you keep the blade clean? Yes. Most people do not understand this concept. They operate in extremes. Either they do the full routine perfectly, or they do nothing and feel like garbage about themselves. This is how you lose. Because life will always interrupt. Always. There is no version of your future where everything goes smoothly and you never face obstacles. So, if your routine only works under perfect conditions, it is not actually a routine. It is a fantasy you are performing when convenient. The real test is day 120 when you are exhausted, when you barely slept, when every part of you wants to just skip it this once. And you do not skip it. You do a smaller version, a modified version. But you do something. Because the action itself is not even the main point anymore. The point is the identity. You are someone who does not abandon the blade. Even when it is hard, even when nobody would blame you for taking a break, especially then. Let me tell you what happens if you let rust build. You skip one day and it feels fine. Nothing bad happened, so you skip another. Then 3 days pass, then a week. And now you are not just missing the routine, you are avoiding the guilt of having missed it. You are negotiating with yourself about when to start again. Monday, next month. After this busy period ends, and every day that passes the rust gets thicker. The gap between who you are and who you were trying to become gets wider, until eventually you are back where you started. Except now you also carry the weight of knowing you quit on yourself. This is why the samurai cleaned their swords daily, even during peace. Not because war was coming tomorrow, because the habit of maintenance was the actual protection. When chaos did arrive, they did not have to think about whether their weapon was ready. It was always ready. Your routine is your weapon, not against other people, against your own tendency to drift, to go soft, to let standards slip because just this once will not matter. Except it always matters. So here is what you do when life breaks your routine. You acknowledge it. You do not pretend everything is fine or make excuses. You just state the fact. Today is hard. Today I cannot do the full version, but I can do something. And then you do that something. Even if it feels insignificant, even if your brain says it is not worth it, you do it anyway, because you are not trying to be productive in that moment. You are preventing rust. You are keeping the connection alive between the person you said you would be and the person you are right now. By day 365, you will have faced dozens of these moments. Sickness, travel, crisis, exhaustion. And each time you found a way to show up, even in a reduced form, you proved something to yourself. That your commitment is not conditional, that you do not need perfect circumstances to honor your word. And that makes you dangerous in a way most people will never understand. Because while they are waiting for the right time, the right mood, the right conditions, you are just moving forward. Quietly, consistently, with a blade that never rusts. There is this moment at the end of every day that most people avoid. You are alone. The noise stopped. And if you're honest with yourself, you know exactly how the day went. You know if you kept your word or broke it. You know if you showed up or hid. But instead of looking at that truth directly, most people distract themselves. They scroll. They watch something. They do anything to avoid sitting with the reality of who they were today. The samurai did the opposite. They had this practice called hansei. It means reflection, but not the feel-good kind where you celebrate your wins and ignore everything else. It was brutal self-assessment. At the end of each day, they would review their actions, what they did well, what they failed at, where they were weak. And here is the important part. They did this without emotion, no shame, no pride, just observation, like a craftsman examining a tool to see where it needs sharpening. This is maybe the hardest part of building a silent routine, because you can lie to everyone else about your progress. You can post the highlight reel. You can talk about your goals and plans and how committed you are. But at night, when you are alone with yourself, the truth is sitting right there, and you either look at it or you do not. Most people do not. They tell themselves tomorrow will be different. They make new promises to replace the broken ones. They reset over and over without ever asking why they keep failing the same test. Here is what I learned. Evaluation without judgment is almost impossible at first. You look at your day and you immediately start the internal commentary. I am so lazy. Why can I not just do the thing? Other people have it figured out what is wrong with me. And once that spiral starts, you are not evaluating anymore. You are just punishing yourself, which accomplishes nothing except making you feel terrible. The samurai understood this. Hansei was not about guilt, it was about information. Did I wake up when I said I would? No, why not? I stayed up too late watching videos. Okay, what needs to change? Go to bed earlier. Done. Next item, no drama, no identity crisis, just a problem and a solution. This approach only works if you separate your actions from your worth as a person. You are not a failure because you skipped your routine today. You are just someone who skipped their routine today. Those are completely different statements. One destroys you. One gives you something to work with. And the difference between day 1 and day 365 is that you finally understand this distinction in your bones. You stop making missing a workout into evidence that you are fundamentally broken. You just see it as data. But here's where most people mess this up. They think reflection means you should do it when you feel like it. When you had a good day and you want to feel proud. Or when you had a terrible day and you are ready to commit to change. The samurai did not wait for the right mood. They reflected every single night. Good day, bad day, mediocre day did not matter. Because the practice itself was the point. You are training your mind to observe itself, to step back from the action and see the patterns, and you cannot do that occasionally. It has to be consistent, or you miss the threads that connect everything. So, what does this actually look like? You sit down before sleep. You do not need a journal, though you can use one if it helps. You ask yourself 3 questions. What did I do today that aligned with who I am trying to become? What did I avoid or fail at? What one thing will I do differently tomorrow? That is it. You are not writing an essay. You are not doing therapy. You are just checking in with yourself honestly. And some nights the answers will hurt. You will realize you spent the whole day distracted. You will see that you broke the same promise you made yesterday. But you do not spiral, you just note it and decide what changes. The power in this is cumulative. After 30 days of nightly reflection, you start seeing patterns you could not see before. You notice that you always skip your routine after staying up late, or that you eat poorly when you are stressed, or that you avoid difficult work by doing busy work instead. These patterns were always there. But without consistent reflection, they stay invisible, and you cannot fix what you cannot see. The samurai knew this. They were not stronger or more disciplined than everyone else. They just paid attention to themselves in a way most people never do. Now, by day 90, something shifts. The reflection becomes less about catching failures and more about calibration. You are not asking if you did the routine. You know you did. You are asking if the routine still serves you, if the 3 sacred actions are still the right 3, if something needs to evolve. This is advanced level work. Most people never get here because they quit long before they earn the right to evaluate whether the system works. They are still trying to survive day 15. But if you make it to day 365, the final mirror gaze becomes something else entirely. You are not looking at who you were today. You are looking at the distance between who you were on day 1 and who you are now. And maybe nothing looks different on the outside. Maybe you do not have abs or a promotion or some dramatic transformation, but you know something changed. You kept your word to yourself for a year. Through sickness, chaos, boredom, doubt, you showed up, and that changes everything about how you see yourself. Not because you are special, because you finally proved to yourself that you are capable of doing hard things quietly, without an audience, without applause. Just you and the mirror and the truth. That is where real strength lives. Here is the truth that no one wants to hear. This works. Not sometimes, not if you're lucky. It just works. The samurai proved it for centuries. I have seen it work in my own life. And if you actually do what I laid out here day after day, it will work for you too. But most people will not do it. They will watch this video, feel inspired for 20 minutes, and then go back to their old patterns. They will wait for motivation, they will complicate it. They will add 10 more steps because 3 seems too simple. And then they will wonder why nothing changed. The routine I gave you is not theory, it is a tested system. 3 sacred actions every morning. No negotiation, reflection every night. Maintenance when chaos hits. That is it. By day 90 you will feel the shift. By day 365, you will be unrecognizable to your former self. Not because something magical happened, but because you built yourself differently, one silent morning at a time. The system works. The only question is whether you will actually use it or just think about using it. Because thinking about discipline and having discipline are 2 completely different lives. Choose which one you want to live.